Okay, so I will track the German as usual because of the duration it requires. Oh, very nice to meet together in this way. And there's quite a lot of questions to get through if we can, so we can just start if everyone's ready. So maybe we're 1 minute early. That's maybe very bad. Oh, oh goodness. Now we're on time. So this is a question. Excuse me, Padmasambhava said, though the view should be as vast as the sky, keep your conduct as fine as barley flour. Please expand. So the view is that the mind is empty from the very beginning, and since the mind is the source of all our experience, all experience is like an illusion. As long as we are locked inside the dualistic view of subject and object being truly different and separate, then we will not see the vast view. Just as clouds and rainbows come in the sky, so happy thoughts and sad thoughts, generous thoughts and selfish thoughts arise in the mind. So when we practice in the Mahayana way, at the beginning of the practice, we manifest our intention to work for the benefit of all beings. During the practice, we hold in mind the fact that the vastness of the mind includes all sentient beings and all the 6 realms and so on. And at the end, we dedicate the merit for the benefit of beings. But if we are opening to our ever open mind, then from that Dzogchen point of view, we are concerned to find that our nature is not different from space. So that when we sit, we don't identify with whatever is arising, whether it seems on the subject side or the object side. But then when we arise from the meditation, when we get up into the concerns of our life, our attention is on the quality of what is arising. So our aim is to rest in the openness of the mind with a focus on the precise presentation of how other people are, how they present to us, so that we respond to the precise details of how they present. So this is as fine as barley flour. We're looking at the details of tone of voice, posture, gesture, vocabulary, and so on. Because this indicates to us how we can respond. Human beings, although they all have the same ground of emptiness, have developed through many different lives specific karmic patterns which differentiate them one from another. So if we want our compassion to be precise, we need to avoid assumptions on the base of race, age, gender, nationality, and so on. So now there's a question, excuse me, from somebody who's been practicing Dharma for 30 years. And they suffer from health problems to particular autoimmune diseases, which affect the whole nervous system. And this makes it very difficult to meditate or even just relax, because most of the time there's some tension in the body. This makes meditation difficult, and the person is often discouraged. Although they notice that it's easier to meditate in a group or in the presence of a Lama. It's meditation without a fixed object, which seems to be the most challenging. Pain, tension is experience. something is occurring for us, something we don't want. When we ever thought life would be better if it was different, then it's hard, because we not only do we have the pain and the tension, but we have an irritation towards our life and how it is. Oh, generally, we would consider this is a karmic result. Having done negative actions in the past, maybe harming different kinds of sentient beings, we find that our own body is a source of trouble to us. So, in the Dzogchen view, we try to maintain the orientation of non-duality, appearance and emptiness. So here that means sensation and emptiness. It's not that this painful or irritating sensation is robbing us of emptiness or calm or spaciousness. This is what is arising in the mind. It is a quality of the mind. So, as much as possible, stay with the arising and passing of the shifting patternings of sensation. All sensation is movement, is communication, whether it's along the nervous pathways or particularly influenced by muscular tension. So it's important to stay with the impermanence of phenomena. Allow these experiences to come and go. The more we see the impermanence, we see the illusory nature of the arising even as it's coming. We follow the middle way between grasping onto the phenomena or trying to push it away. Everything which occurs is like illusion. It is our own mind which reifies, solidifies, makes separate and attributes positive or negative value. So the more we are aware of breathing as dynamic, with the shifting of the muscles in the diaphragm and so on, and perception, the shifting with the muscles change around the eyeballs and so on, then we can see directly, I am patterns of movement, moving in a field of movement. So sensation is self-vanishing. We can't grasp it. What we hold on to is the idea of the sensation, that it's this pain again and I don't like it. Who is persecuted by the pain? I am. So then we need to observe, what is this person that I call me? My body, my voice, my mind is movement. So where is the fixed target that this annoying tension and pain and difficulty seems to be hitting again and again? So the central point is not to be seduced into believing that this is a stuck situation, not to come to a conclusion about what it is, but stay precisely attentive to the shifts and changes of how it is. So the next question is, how during our daily activities like work and planning and so on, how to maintain awareness of an open, fresh mind? The requirements of normal life require concentrating on tasks, goals, results, and achievements, so that my work produces something of value which is judged by other people. So how to stay with the precision of the task while maintaining open awareness? So this question is resting on a false opposition. Movement is not the enemy of stillness. what is the enemy of stillness is involvement in movement, attachment to the movement, which creates a clinging and a tension. Oh, whatever we're doing, there is the movement of the body, which is a shaping, a patterning, a potential in a field of shaping and pattern and potential. You don't put your, you put your shoes on and you also put your shirt on, but you don't put them on in the same way. The attention to the detail of the pattern of the shoe and to the pattern of the shirt bring the body into different precise movements. So this is the starting point, the relational co-emergence of what we take to be subject and object. Within the space of the mind, subject and object are always turning and moving together. What is work? Maybe going to an office or a classroom or a clinic, being with other people, being with machines, and so on. You have some intention and some plan of what you're going to do. But because life is dynamic, things are never quite the way we imagine they will be. So the benefit of meditation is by helping us to relax out of the fixity of our intention. We have a space to attend to the details of the situation so that our arousal or our movement towards the object is harmonizing with the object to bring the best outcome. So when we do the Guru Yoga of the White Hour, we open to the space in which subject and object are arising together. Well, if you get used to doing this, taking just a couple of minutes, you can release yourself from the fixity of identification inside yourself, and then releasing yourself from an internalized proactive intentionality. Then allow yourself to emerge with the specific details of the situation. If you are in a meeting at work, and there are one or more people there who don't like you, then don't be surprised if they are attacking or disparaging towards your proposals. When they speak, you have to give them some space to allow their positioning to move through. At this moment across the world, there are cities being blown up, people being stabbed and shot, floods are occurring, forest fires will break out again. So the precise details of the work document probably don't matter too much. The more we can observe how we can become over-identified with a particular intention or reading of a situation, the more we see how we ourselves put ourselves in prison. Okay, so the next question. Although the view never feels very far away, I find that I'm not sitting to meditate as often as I used to. Should I set a time and stick to it and write myself reminders? Meditation, as we practice it in Dzogchen, is an undefended state of openness. When you have to organize your embodied energy through willpower, that involves a certain pushing through and tensing up. Discipline is useful if you are, say, doing a formal ritual practice like the short Padmasambhava practice. You can do it even if you're not particularly in the mood. But of course, we also hope that just by doing it, our mood will shift. However, my mood is a flavor or subtle patterning of my experience. So in Dzogchen, we sit with whatever is occurring. So you can simply relax in the out breath and sit with feeling bored, disinterested, critical, judgmental. So just as we just looked at a little earlier, the middle way is not merging into what is occurring and not pushing it away. So just open and allow whatever is coming to come. If you have an idea of what so-called good meditation would be like, then that will give you a frame of reference for judging what's going on. But we are concerned simply to be with however it is. Your mind is dull and heavy. My mind is dull and heavy. If you put the full stop in at that point, you come to a conclusion. My mind is dull and heavy for a while. If I remain relaxed and open, hospitable to this dull, sullen mood, it will pass by. How could it settle onto me when I am a relaxed, spacious welcome? My mind is not mine. Mine, or my, as in my mind, is referring to the emergent experience of the flow of experience in this space. If you go in the park and different kinds of clouds are coming, getting angry that they're the wrong kind of clouds might be a little foolish. You're not the owner of the sky. Similarly, you are not the owner of your mind. Your mind is a site of the arising and passing of many different kinds of experiences. When we enter into reactivity, we invest positive and negative charges or energy into whatever is arising. So the more we can just allow the mind to be as it is, then this is a very pure kind of practice. When you're happy, you don't grasp the happy experience. When you're sad, you don't try to get rid of the sad experience. The mind is like space. These experiences come and go. Then when you have to interact with other people, your interaction arises freshly from the space and not from being enmeshed inside some kind of habitual formation. So the next question is, you have talked of other realms and so on, but is it possible to take a completely secular approach to Dzogchen? The secular is usually set against the sacred. Dzogchen is neither secular nor sacred, but the function of considering other realms is to expand the narrowness of focus of our mind. Whether we are thinking in terms of a revelatory religion like Judaism or Christianity or Islam, where we have the sense that God makes human beings very special, or whether we are thinking in Darwinian evolutionary terms, and that human beings are the most evolved of all the potential forms which have developed on this planet. We are special. And part of our specialness is our belief in our own rationality. So one might say, well, I don't believe in these other realms. No, thank you for sharing your profound understanding. You don't believe in this. I don't believe in your opinion. So now we can fight each other whose belief is the best one. This is very popular human activity. You believe the wrong thing, so you have to die. So from the Dharma point of view, this is a little bit silly. You read in the text about the pure lands of Amitabha or Padmasambhava. What is the meaning of this? It's that we can imagine something. And by investing that imaginal form with the energy of devotion and belief, it can start to ring true for us. Then we start to see, oh, things become seemingly real and important when I believe in them. At this moment, some people are believing in the importance of their nation state, and they are willing to die to protect that nation. That kind of nationalistic identification is essentially the investment in a reified illusion. It is the idea of the country that people die for, or the idea of a religion, or an economic policy. People get shot in the Amazon for trying to protect the rainforest. There are many, many possibilities that are arising moment by moment. But when we select one or two features as being especially important, then we are drawn towards defending them. These are what you might call impure lands. That is to say, they are an imaginal form, but one invested with the energy of the five poisons. In the Buddhist tradition, this is called the impure relative truth. When we purify the five poisons out of the formations of relative truth, we get pure relative truth. Then we become aware of patterns of manifestation, of revelation, which are clearly experienceable, and yet they lack inherent existence. So, studying the Pure Lands, saying the prayers to be born in the Pure Lands is a way of allowing you to relieve yourself of the investment which tends to contaminate the so-called secular world. These Pure Lands may seem unbelievable, but of course, if you study the Buddhist teachings on emptiness, you yourself are unbelievable. Your own name, which you respond to so easily, so quickly, is in fact naming an illusion. So I don't think emotional reactivity is something that we can just scrape off like dog shit from a shoe. It permeates us. And therefore, we have to allow ourselves to release our identification. It is our own attachment which is the problem. And the very many methods which are around in Dharma will be difficult to access if you take a purely secular approach. So then we have a question wanting a repetition of the 5 questions of inquiry. So does your mind have a shape and color? Does it have a size, big or small, so that it's inside you or outside you? Does your mind come from someplace? Was it that you didn't have a mind and suddenly, oh, you have a mind? When your mind is here and you have a sense of your mind being here, where is it? Does it rest on something? And does it does the mind go? Does it vanish so that you don't have a mind? Now, we need to be clear that mind here means both the space of revelation of experience and the clarity which illuminates what is arising in this space of revelation. It's not referring to my dualistic consciousness, the organizing of my thoughts and feelings by which I can chop up the world into this versus that and reorganize the fragments into patterns. What we call my consciousness is a patterning of the movement of the energy of the mind. So, for example, I have my watch on the table beside me. I look at the question from time to time, and I have to calculate how much time to give to each question. This is the movement of a dualistic consciousness. It is the organizing function of energy. So just when you were a small child and you were maybe playing among the trees and there was a tight space between two bushes, you have a sense of whether your body can squeeze through or not. So the shape of the body, the shape of the bush, there is a kind of dialogue that you have to be able to work with if you're not to get trapped. So that's the functioning of consciousness. But the mind is not consciousness. Consciousness, you could say, is a subjective side experience, which is revealed in relation to object side experience. So this interplay generates what we consider to be our sense of our world and how we participate in it. So when we are engaging in meditation, we don't want to go down that road at all. So for the 5 questions, do the Guru Yoga of the white Ah. At the final sound of Ah, relax in the spaciousness, and then gently allow each of the questions to arise, and without making it a strong inquiry, see what is revealed when the question gently hovers for you. The purpose of these questions is not to arrive at some kind of objective knowledge. They are a way of allowing you to be closer to the actuality of your mind as it is. So the next question is, I have a teacher, a Western disciple of a Tibetan Lama. He is authorized to teach, but not to give empowerments or tantric teaching. Can I think of him as my guru or as my teacher? He says I should see his guru as my guru, but I have not met this guru. So this is a lot of concepts. And it depends on the lineage, how one can think about these issues. From the point of view of devotion, anything can be your guru. But if your teacher is telling you that he can't be your guru and you have to have his guru as your guru, then probably you should follow that. If you have a boyfriend and he says, oh, you can't sleep with me, but you can sleep with my father, that might not be a source of great joy. So with this kind of question, they depend on conceptual definition and patterning. Life is very short, so we should go to the heart of the practice. And if obstacles exist inside the conceptual structure of the practice, then either leave that conceptual structure or go into it with the means to open it so that it's deeply meaningful for you. Okay, so here's another question. I am a beginner psychotherapist. Are there techniques in psychotherapy whose foundation are the Dzogchen teachings? And can this help the patient? The main thing that Dzogchen can do is make you not rely on ideas too much. Psychotherapy training is very strange. Generally, you have to read a lot of books. And then when you go into the room with the client or the patient, you have to forget what you read in the book. This is not how car mechanics use their learning. They learn that the engine of a particular kind of Mercedes-Benz is different from that of a particular kind of Ford. But when you meet someone to work with them, whether you're a school teacher or a manager of a team or a psychotherapist, you have to know that people change. Their moods are part of them. So therefore, we should relax out of our preoccupations, move out of dualistic consciousness, open up as much into awareness and bring this into compassionate contact with whoever we're with. Can we encourage patients to become aware of the empty, foundationless nature of the problems that upset them? Well, the assumptions behind psychotherapy are very different from the belief system of Dzogchen. People in Tibet who are practicing Dzogchen very often didn't have a lot of worldly demands to keep them in a reactivity with ever-shifting patterns of human demand, time demands, and so on. We come to the Dharma because we see that we have a problem and we become interested in how the Buddha taught, and gradually we open ourselves to this understanding and the practices that go with it. But generally speaking, in a mental health setting, the patient is not asking for a deeper understanding of the illusory nature of phenomena. That might be your area of interest and your agenda, but you have to think whether it's ethical to try to offer it to somebody who has no interest or understanding of it. Okay, so next question. Is one way to interpret the term sentient beings as self states in terms of a psychological perspective? Thus, we each have many different self states arising in relation to other people's and our own inner myriad causes. Is this one way to understand what is meant by, and then it's a quotation, although there are no actually existing sentient beings to liberate? My own teacher, Tibetan Lama, often said, don't do a pick and mix approach to Dharma. And more precisely, he would say many times, don't mix your food with your shit. Your food means the Dharma. Your shit means your own thoughts. So you can conceptualize all sorts of things about self-states and a family of selves and so on, which can be useful. But personally, I will keep it very separate from a Dharma understanding. Psychology is based on conceptual identification, and Dharma is not. And we have some other questions. This is concerning Padmasambhava practice. What is the difference between an outer mantra and an inner mantra with respect to their meaning, usage, and effects? The value of mantras is in their recitation with one-pointed attention and a spirit of devotion. So your question will be answered through your own practice. Thinking about Dharma in a way which intellectualizes can be a major obstacle to the path. Are mantras to be said aloud, under the breath, or silently in one's mind? If you are with people who have the same practice and the same empowerment, then you should say them out loud. The sound of the mantra is also important. But if there are other people around, you can say them under your breath, so that almost no sound is coming out, but there is sufficient movement of your throat to remind you of what you're saying. There are some mantras which are only recited in silence, but this doesn't refer to Padmasambhava's mantra. Then, if the mantra descends into the heart and automatically repeats faster than the throat can sound or the mind can catch, should one allow this or stop this? So this is an interesting kind of question. The person who has sent in the questions has made clear at the beginning of their email that they are a beginner, they are new to this. So they want to be sure that they're doing things in the right way. But of course, from the outside, in a formal sense, you should simply stay with the description presented in the practice and return your mind to that focus. But from the Dzogchen view, stay with the experience as it comes. Don't merge into it. Don't try to change it. Now, as with any spiritual practice, if you have some mental instability yourself, you should be careful because mantras are powerful. So, if you find yourself getting pulled into the mantra and you're reciting it faster and faster, or it seems to be operating inside you and going faster and faster, that's not so good. It's usually a sign that the prana, or the energy of the breath, which is the basic life energy of the body, is becoming agitated. Well, again, always the middle way, not too tight, not too loose. One enters the mandala from the east. Does one proceed to go to the west? And if so, is this from the north or the south or through the center? How and when does one exit the mandala? Well, the east represents the rising sun, the dawn, light coming into the world. The mandala is a symbolic way of attending to appearance and emptiness. So rather than trying to work out the kind of inner geography of the mandala, it's better to stay with the feeling tone of being in this infinite circle within which all the Buddhas arise and are smiling at you. How do we exit the mandala? Well, hopefully you never exit the mandala. It's a very nice place, better to spend your life inside. Because in the practice it says, whatever you see is the form of the guru. Whatever sound you hear is the sound of mantra. Whatever thoughts arise in the mind are the thoughts and feelings of Padmasambhava. So, having opened to the mandala, bring the whole world into the mandala. Because if you go into the mandala and then out of the mandala and in and out, it just becomes another, excuse me, dualistic formation. Does the skull cup have to be from a human, or will an animal cranium do? The skull cup is a symbol for emptiness. In India, in the old days, there were many yogis who carried skull cups as their begging bowl. Some of them spent years living in cemeteries where there was a ready supply of corpses. And if you are in Bengal, say, you go to a shrine of Kali, you see her with these many skulls, 50 skulls around her neck. But in Europe, we think, wow, it's very exciting to find a Black Madonna. If the Virgin Mary was depicted with 50 skulls around her neck, it would be a very different kind of church. We have to understand the symbolism. The symbolism of 50 skulls means the 50 consonants and vowels of the Sanskrit alphabet. This means that all the sounds that we make when we are speaking, whatever languages we speak, are not different from emptiness. So if you have a little glass bowl where the light can shine through it, that's probably just as useful for the symbolism. So what does one do with the physical offering that one does not consume? So if you're practicing by yourself, you can put something to drink and one biscuit. That's enough. Traditionally, alcohol is offered. Alcohol is useful because it is disinhibiting. And if you're very caught up in your thoughts, alcohol, a little of it can be useful to make you a bit more available. But again, these things are largely symbolic. And gradually you can learn about the symbolism and see how it applies to you. You don't need to offer a lot. We offer so that the food becomes a site of blessing, and then we eat it and drink it, so we internalize the blessing. This is not so different from the Eucharist in the Christian service. When visualizing a deity holding a vajra to his heart and a skull cup, just before merging with the deity, should one pick up a physical vajra and hold it to one's own heart and hold a physical skull cup, or a substitute? Sometimes, but in this particular practice, no. Okay, another question. What can we do practically to distinguish awareness of itself by itself versus the awareness based on reified self? So we have translators here, so we have different languages, and each of these languages have their own capacity to distinguish between consciousness and awareness. So we have to be quite careful what we mean by the terms. When I use the term awareness in this context, it's the equivalent of the Tibetan rigpa or Sanskrit vidya. Vidya means knowledge. So many schools in India have vidya as part of their name. But in Dzogchen, it doesn't really mean knowledge. Although some teachers translate it always as knowledge. But knowledge is something I know. Awareness is not something I do. In my use of English, awareness is the illumination of the patterning of experience, which I refer to as I, me, myself. So I am conscious that I discriminate between consciousness and awareness. But I wouldn't say I am aware that I discriminate between consciousness and awareness unless I was using English in a very ordinary sense. So basically, consciousness you can think about and talk about, and awareness you can't. Awareness is not an object of knowledge. Consciousness is an object of knowledge. Awareness is self-illuminating. So it's the natural light of the mind, which is revealed if you relax into it. What blinds us to that or makes it difficult to access this intrinsic awareness is our own commitment to dualistic understanding. So the question is awareness by itself, of itself, versus awareness based on a reified self. In the way I'm using language, there is no such thing as awareness based on the reified self. You don't have awareness, though you can awaken and find yourself within awareness. Consciousness takes an object, awareness doesn't take an object. But all I can do is share with you my understanding, which was refined in many interactions with my guru. And I'm very aware that different lineages, different teachers use these terms in different ways. Neither consciousness nor awareness is a thing. Consciousness is the light which illuminates the patterning of experience. It illuminates them in the sense of being a subjective knowing. Awareness is not subjective. That is to say, it is never touched by, never modified by the duality of subject and object. So in all the translations I do and all the teachings I give, I try to keep these terms very clearly separate. Consciousness is concerned with knowing something. So I'm conscious that the time is almost finished for today. I look at my watch, I see the second hand going around, and I can calculate with 2 minutes or something left. I am conscious of the hands of the clock moving, and that indicates the nature of dualistic time. In ordinary English, you could use the word awareness in the same way as I use consciousness there. When Buddhism came into Tibet, the language was not particularly well developed. Certainly in terms of philosophy, Buddhist philosophy, they didn't have that kind of elaborated interpretive schema. So when the first translations were being done, there was the possibility to very clearly define the meaning of the technical terms. And because this work was being backed by the king and by the important lamas and so on, it became a kind of patriarchal top-down transmission which people had to align themselves with. We are in a very different situation. Teachers come from the East, Western people go to the East, people learn a bit of this, a bit of that, and gradually, through working on translation, the technical terms become defined and refined. So there is likely to be much more diversity in the use of particularly technical terms. This could be a cause of many headaches, but you could also take it as a support for mindfulness. As you start to read a translation, try to attend to how language is being used. Some of us have looked at the Heart Sutra several times. And in this four-line verse we have in praise to Prajnaparamita, the wisdom of emptiness. Okay, it says that this wisdom of emptiness is beyond speech, thought, and expression. No. Wittgenstein said, if what you want to say is beyond language, then shut up. So generally speaking, we should not discuss these things in a debating society way, but study and reflect and do the practice, and then clarity will arise. Okay, so that brings us to the end. If you have more questions, please send them in, and we'll deal with them at a future date. And we will soon start to look at the butter lamp prayer and the explanation for it, which is an interesting text because it goes through the various levels of view and meditation that we find in the tantric and Dzogchen paths. So I bid you good evening. And thanks very much to our translators and to Pedro and for all the people who helped to make this function well. And I noticed this evening that there are more Turkish people present. So that's also very nice. Okay, bye for now.
Muito obrigado, James. Obrigado a todos.
Bye, James. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dzięki wszystkim. Do zobaczenia.